All right, welcome everybody. Just waiting for Vanessa R Brooks. Looking forward to tonight's conversation that we're going to have. Should be an excellent one. It's always fun to have Vanessa on. It's been a while since I've been able to do that. And so hopefully Vanessa will be jumping on shortly. We always have this like awkward beginning, especially with Vanessa. And I take full responsibility for that because I seem to always have trouble. Hey, maybe we're not going to have trouble this time. Let's see. Hopefully that worked. I hit approve, I think. Hopefully I didn't. Vanessa, you requested to come on and I said yes, but I don't see you. So, Vanessa, if you're on, if you could just comment in the comments. It's always this awkward time. It's times like this that I wish I was a good joke teller or something. Vanessa, I don't see you, so I can't add you. I saw that you requested to be added and I hit approve, but you're not coming up, so not sure what that's about. Okay, let me try one more time. Oh, why is it not working? There we go. I think it's working this time. I think it's adding you this time, Vanessa. I hope so. Hey, hey.
Oh, I see. It's because I always forget that it's the other way around. Hang on a second.
Sure.
Hang on a
Yeah, no
second.
problem.
Hang on a second. I don't know if you can even see me because my head's chopped
I can
off.
see you.
You can?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, you look nice.
One day, thank you. One day I'll remember to turn it the other way.
Mm. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
one day
tricky,
I'll
huh?
remember that.
Yeah, I know. Well, we just need to do them
Yeah.
more frequently, see, and then you won't forget in between.
See? See? But you're so busy and so sought after,
Ah,
so
yeah,
I have to wait my
I don't know about
turn.
sought after, but definitely busy. So, especially
Oh,
lately, Vanessa, I don't think I'm as sought after.
join the club.
Well, that's why we're here tonight, right?
Hey, we'll create our own platform. How
Yes,
about that?
yes, we will from maybe from scratch.
From
We may
scratch.
have to.
I used to be very sought after, though, Aaron.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I used to be sought after. It's okay though.
I'm sorry. Yeah,
I'm not.
I I always thought it'd be fun to do a YouTube channel like anonymously, like like the person in the dark when they're trying, like when they're renting out the mafia or something on one of those crime investigation shows and they're trying to hide them. Like
Hmm.
put yourself in the
Hmm.
dark and kind of change your voice a little bit, and then take on some like spiritual name because you got to get yourself a spiritual name if you're going to build a platform in the spiritual
Right.
community.
I know. You know what? When I first was transitioning, I was trying to do that.
Mhm.
So my spiritual name was going to be Venus Butterfly
Hey, there you go.
because that's my name in Greek or something. But it just
we could do we
you
could
know
do
you
we could do a joint one on YouTube, and I could take Mars as a name. Why not? And then we could be like the Mars and
okay.
Venus show.
Hey, Mars and Venus, that might
And
work.
then nobody could look at our past stuff and say, "Oh, well, look what they said about this election, and look what they said about this group of people."
Hmm. Mars and Venus, that could actually work, Aaron.
Hey, I'm a factory of
I
ideas.
like the sign of that.
And then we can
Yeah.
just talk about anything
Hmm.
too. We just talk about all kinds of crazy stuff.
Right. Without the trolls reminding me of what I used to do and what I used to say and who I used to be.
Right, right. No damage to careers. Nobody looking online and saying, "Hey."
Sometimes I forget I'm self-employed and I'm like, okay, Vanessa, you need to take that post down.
Yeah, I know.
Oh
I'm saying I
well.
know for me, not that I've seen some that I'm like, dang, she should she should take that down if she wants more customers. Such is life in this crazy world, huh?
Exactly. You know what? You can't win either way.
No, you
You
can't.
know, you can't win either
You
way.
can't unless
So
you're just so well. In my opinion, I could be wrong. Unless you're just so milk toast, you don't really say anything. Um,
true, and that's just not gonna work for
yeah,
me.
me either.
And that's not gonna work for Vanessa. She got too much. She got too much to say.
Damn right.
My mama told me when I was 2 years old. She was like, because I was rebuking my dad at the age of 2. I was like, Dad, you need to find a job and help mom with these bills. I was 2. So she said, Vanessa, you've been talking since birth. So,
No, I
hey,
don't know.
no need to stop
Do you
now.
experience this, Vanessa, where people come, like, I got this as a preacher too, but where people come into your space, whatever it is, your personal space or your Facebook page or social media or whatever, and try to mold and shape what you're saying to their liking, like you only exist for them. Like, please don't talk about this because this brings back down my vibration. I really like it when you talk about this, but when you talk about this, I just can't stand it. And then
You know, I've never had that happen.
it just cracks me up every time because I'm like, you literally think that I just exist for you. I mean, it's just a beautiful
Exactly.
picture of
And
narcissism.
and that's actually a trigger for me right now because when I was a pastor,
Yeah.
I lived under that world
Hmm.
of being scrutinized so
Hmm.
much.
Yep.
And
I know it.
I just refuse to do that anymore. Like, I'm not going to live in that world anymore. So when I say that you have options online, you really do have options.
Yeah, it's true.
But I'm not going to say what makes other people comfortable or, you know, I have to have freedom of expression in this season of my life. I got to have my throat chakra cleared
Mm.
at all times. I got to be able to say what I need to say.
I hear you.
See, I talked about throat chakras, y'all. Did you hear that? So,
Uh,
yeah,
I think I'm clearing all of mine in this season, crazy season that we're in.
I
So,
know it's so crazy.
mhm.
But Aaron, I'm telling you, it's crazy. But I'm so grateful. If nobody else likes Facebook, I gotta tell you, like I'm grateful for Facebook because if it were not for Facebook, I'm not exactly sure where I would be mentally today.
Mhm.
Because I've met people like yourself who just really have helped me to get through these last couple of years. It's been so crazy,
Yeah.
especially the last year has been absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
And there are so many, I think there's so many different cycles to what I call the dark night of the soul.
Hmm.
Like every time I think I'm over
I'm
something,
finally out.
like I'm finally out and I can see the light of day. Like I go right back into this freaking cave again.
Yeah.
And you've been one of the ones out inbox like, hey, cool guy, what's up with this scripture right here? So yeah.
Well, it's been very mutual. So there have been a few times I've lost my shit and been like messaging you. Believe this shit.
Woo,
So
we share cyber cocktails
yes,
often.
yes, we do. Yes, we do.
Woo.
Hey,
So
at
anyway,
least it's safe during COVID pandemic, right?
this is true. This is true. This is
Don't wait,
true.
don't Aaron, don't talk about COVID. Just stay out of everything
Oh, please
controversial
don't
because
you don't talk about COVID, masks, the
yeah.
election, uh, Bill Gates. Please, please, just please.
Yep. That's
I'm
the
like,
world
with
we're living
all
in.
of the things that's going on in the world, like y'all are really pissed about some masks. I'm trying to understand that world. I cannot. I mean, because if you have legitimate health issues and
Right.
you can't wear the
Right.
mask, then just don't wear the
Right.
mask. But like, there's a whole thing about wearing
Yeah,
masks.
I know.
I mean, on both sides of the spectrum, I'm like, really, y'all?
I know. I know.
So
It
crazy.
is.
It's so
It
crazy right
is.
now.
It is.
I never thought 3 years ago that I'd be watching people argue online about wearing a mask or not wearing a mask or
I hear you. I know
You know,
unreal. So,
and it's unfortunate because when you actually have family members that have COVID,
I know.
and I have to watch the stupidity online, it pisses me off because I personally have close family members and several people in my community and people that I used to pastor who've had COVID. And I'm like, y'all really arguing about a mask? Really? Like, come on. So insensitive. In my humble opinion, it's just insensitive to argue about it. If you don't like it, just don't wear it. But to call people names and this
Right.
whole sheeple
I
thing,
know, right?
like I'm a
I
sheep
know.
because I
I'm a
wear a
sheeple.
mask.
I was a sheeple at Walmart today.
I can't think for myself. I'm in fear.
Right.
I'm like, really?
Right.
It's not that I'm excited about wearing the mask. Actually, I don't like wearing the mask. Okay, just come here real close. Let me tell you, I don't like it.
Right.
But there are people who are sick
Right.
and dying, and I don't have the answers for COVID. So if wearing a mask is my reasonable service in
Right.
my preachy voice. Anyway, we didn't come to talk about
No, we
COVID
didn't.
tonight. I'm
Hey, but I
sorry.
gotta say, I love wearing a mask because I live in a smaller community and I love the anonymity it affords me to be able to
I
just go to the
know.
store. I can go in and go out. Nobody stops me. Nobody talks to me. Nobody keeps me for 30 minutes. It's awesome. I love it.
And after tonight, I'll probably have to wear my mask even the more because I don't know what's going to come out tonight.
Yeah, yeah. So we talked about this a little bit in one of our, I don't know, cyber cocktail sessions. But we have a lot of similarities because we both devoted our lives, and so maybe I'll start the conversation this way and frame it out this way. There are different levels. We're talking about religious trauma. I know there are people out there that are tired of hearing about this. That's not who's online are going to watch anyway. I know there are people
Right.
that are just waking up to this and people that need to hear about this and need to process this. But we were talking about how there's different levels of that religious trauma. And for a lot of people, a lot of their trauma, from what I'm seeing in the groups and just dialoguing and talking and coaching people, the church hurt them.
Yeah.
Pastoral authority hurt them, or sheeple. I'm sorry, because we call them sheep, the sheep,
I
the sheep
know.
hurt the
Oh God.
pastor, or, and I'm not making light of those things in any way, shape, or form. Pain is pain, and if you're committed to being a healer, then you care about every level of pain. But we got to talking about a different level, a different dimension of trauma.
Yes.
When you give your whole entire life, not to the church, not necessarily not just to the church, not just to other people, and you're dealing with wounds from other people as well, but you give your entire life to Jesus, to
Jesus.
Jesus Christ, to be a follower of the way, 100% in, obey every commandment. You really set in your heart to do
Don't make
that,
me cry.
and you do it for years. And why do you want to cry? Let's pick it up there. I mean,
Oh my God, don't make me cry because I'm still going through healing.
yeah,
I'm not bitter. I think I'm past the bitter stage, but seriously, and again, I don't want to minimize anybody's pain that's watching because pain is real and it's personal, and I don't want to minimize anybody's pain because we all have different experiences that we've faced through religious trauma and church abuse and all that stuff. And I know that church abuse is real. I'm sure that, I'm sure unconsciously I hurt people as well. But for me, this whole thing about religious trauma, for me, my ought is against somebody that I can't even talk to.
right.
You know what I'm saying? Like when I got saved at the ripe age of 24, and I was raised in church, but I'm talking about when I made a conscious decision to walk down the aisle. I actually got saved in my house, and it was a very real experience. Okay, even if it was in my mind, it was a real experience. But I felt the presence of God. Right? This is before I started reading a Bible. And when I started to read the Bible, I should have researched before I read it, but I didn't. So when I began to read the Bible, I was immediately drawn to the Gospels. For some reason, I was pulled into Jesus. Like I was pulled into the pages of that Bible. And I fell in love with the persona, the character, the presence of Jesus. I did. And so I wanted to be obedient to that teaching. I wanted to be obedient to Jesus. I did. So, honey, let me tell you, Jesus got me off drugs. Jesus got me off alcohol.
Right.
I just started back drinking after 25 years of not drinking. You know, Jesus got me out the bar. Jesus got me out the bed with Tom, Dick, and Harry. So I wanted to be a good Christian girl. I really did. So for me, my trauma is not so much about, and believe me, I've been hurt in the church as well.
Right.
Spiritual parents, spiritual children, colleagues, been there, wrote the book. But my greatest hurt has been my relationship with Jesus and having to walk away from it and heal from it and be mad at Jesus. I know that sounds kind of crazy, but that's my story. And, you know, I made allegiance to Jesus. I did. I made covenants to Jesus, and I was serious. I meant them. And so, as you stated before, I framed my entire life, livelihood, and lifestyle around Jesus. Someone I had never seen.
Right.
Someone I never talked to other than in the constructs of my own spiritual awareness, right? So I'm that person who literally, I could probably count on 2 fingers the number of Sundays I missed church before I became a pastor, was in church, not because of a pastor, but because of Jesus.
Right.
Okay. Everything I did, I tried to feed the hungry. I tried to clothe the naked. I visited hospitals. I was on Skid Row with the homeless and the drug dealers. All these things that Jesus did, I tried to duplicate that. Was I perfect? No. But in my heart, I tried to duplicate everything that Jesus did in that Bible. And so for me, this has been very difficult. I don't know why I haven't lost it here, because this was hard for me.
Right.
And I think that may be why some people resist the deconstruction process, because it's scary. You know, when you have to face those fears and the uncertainties and the what ifs and what do I do now, and how could I let myself get pulled into this without thinking first, and how much of it was real, how much of it was not real, how much of it was constructed in my own mind, how much of it was about my desperation, because when I got saved, I was in a very dark space mentally. I was brutally depressed, struggling with suicidal ideations, you know, in a bad relationship, just in a bad space. And so now I'm trying to go back into time and figure out how much of that was me desperately trying to save my life, you know, and how much of it was real. So all of that for me has been very, very trying emotionally and mentally. So while I respect the people who are dealing with, you know, their pastors who scolded them, or their spiritual mother who did whatever, those are real pains, and I've experienced those too.
Right.
But I was able to let that stuff go a little bit easier than letting my relationship with Jesus go.
So let me.
And some people may not. Go ahead.
Let me interrupt you, because like the way you're telling the story, you're saying, you know, I was. Did you mention drugs? I don't know. I don't know if you mentioned drugs or rock and roll in your former life.
Drugs,
but alcohol, bars,
drugs,
sleeping around, drugs, whatever you had, and then you found Jesus. You had a real experience. You experienced the presence of God, and then you're doing all these good deeds. So what's wrong with that, Vanessa? I mean, I can hear people, because part of what I can hear people thinking, oh well, like here's the thing for me. People think, well, I just backslid. I just got bitter. I had somebody recently on my Facebook page, you know, say, well, I was in the pendulum swing, that, you know, that the pendulum was clear up here and solid, sold out devotion to Jesus. And then the pendulum was just swinging clear back here. And then basically insinuated all kinds of things about me in that post, that I was swinging, you know, too far the other way. But this person made the point. They said, well, I've been at this a lot longer, and this is one of those, you know, we're sticking with Jesus people, which I want to talk about later in this broadcast, whatever we call these, in this live video. So anyway, like, what's the deal? Like I can hear them like what was the problem? You had a good experience, it improved your life, you're doing good deeds.
Okay. You know what? And
Where's
this
the
is what I tell
pain?
people. Here's the thing. Unlike some people, although when I look at my experience, I think I've been awakened in stages longer than I realized because I never really preached the same gospel that my colleagues were preaching. But
Right.
anyway, in terms of this conscious experience, I closed our church in 2019. So it's not been that long, just March of 2019. When I locked the doors on that Saturday, I didn't lock the doors, quote unquote, fully awakened.
Mm-hmm.
I was having some experiences, but I wasn't fully there. I locked the doors, fully believing in what I believed in terms of my salvation. When I came home, and this is why I challenge people, miss a few Sundays from church and get still,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
When I came home and I no longer had the responsibility of a congregation, and at that point, my preaching invitations had got really minimal because I had started talking about the subconscious mind, and people thought I was they thought I was into science and stuff. But anyway, I had all this time on my hands, and now I'm sitting there and I'm asking God, why was ministry so difficult for me? Like, because there was so much warfare, Aaron, and so much demonic deliverance ministry, and so much casting out of demons, and relationships just failing. And I asked God one day, what was the deal? What was the deal? I heard within myself, it probably was my own mind saying this, but the question was said to me, are you ready? Are you ready to really know the truth? And I'm like, I guess. So I started to research.
Mm-hmm.
Unlike the type of research I had done before, because when I was in church as a born again Christian, I researched a lot. I knew the Bible backwards and forwards, but I researched in a way that matched my belief system, right?
Right.
Now I'm being pulled to research things that don't match it. I was in grad school, so because I was studying to be a pastoral counselor, that program had me researching other cultures and other
Mm-hmm.
spiritual practices. So all of that combined, it was like, okay, let me take a look at this. I began to look at the history
Mm-hmm.
and data and research and scholars who were what I call neutral.
Right.
You
Right.
know,
Right.
they were not trying to defend their doctrine. They were
Right.
neutral scholars. I'm looking at all this information. I'm looking at, and y'all know I'm about to get in trouble here. The thing that really blew me away was when I began to study Yahweh, the God of the Jews. This is no disrespect to the Jewish people at all. But you got to understand why that was imperative for me, because I was not only a Jesus girl, I was a Yahweh girl. In my mind, those two were synonymous.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus, Jesus was the God, the reincarnate Yahweh. I don't know how else to say it. So when I began
Yeah.
to look at some of these pieces of my theology, I was blown away. I don't know how much you want to talk about on this show tonight, so I'm trying to choose my words carefully. But I was blown away at what I was finding out about my beliefs, my theology.
Right.
So I started to ask this difficult question, Vanessa. Then y'all don't judge me. I'm just talking. But these are the questions that came to me. Is Jesus real?
Mm-hmm.
Did he live?
Mm-hmm.
You know, is God real? That God. I knew something higher than me existed, but I'm talking about the God that I was in relationship with. So I started questioning everything about what I was believing.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had to rewire in my brain
Mm-hmm.
my concept of God. So to answer your question, that was a long answer. To answer your question, what's wrong with all the good stuff I said? Well, what was the psychological damage that I was doing to myself, though?
Mm.
Was I doing those nice things because I was genuinely a
Yeah. Come
nice,
on.
loving person?
Right.
Or was I doing those things because I was prompted by the theological doctrine that said this is your reasonable service and this is what you're supposed to do as a Jesus follower.
Right. Yeah, I went through. Oh, I'm sorry. Didn't mean to cut you off.
No. Go ahead, because I'm talking a
No.
lot.
Go ahead.
Go
I
ahead.
want you to finish your thought.
So I had to take a look at myself. Vanessa, are you doing these things because you're grateful to God that He saved you from hell? Oh, come on, y'all. Let's talk.
Yes.
Are you grateful for these things because Jesus kept you from committing suicide? Are you just doing these things because you feel indebted now? These are the hard questions that I had to ask myself, and I think a lot of people at some point will need to ask those questions.
Yeah, I went through a really similar process. For me, though, it was, am I doing these things from a place of love? Even if you want to take 1 Corinthians 13, right? You can have all knowledge, all that gifting, but if you're not doing it from a place of love, it profits you nothing. So think about that. I mean, that's an impressive chapter, regardless of what we might think about what some of the stuff that Paul said that maybe is out there. But if you think about that, you can have all the form, you can be doing all the activities, but if you're not doing it from a genuine place of love, it's not profiting you anything. And I really had to look at that same thing and how much of what I was doing in terms of caring for people, like going to the hospital. Because when I got started, I mean, in some ways ministry ruins you a little bit. I mean, when I got started, very similar story to yours. Came out of a really traumatic time in my life, came out of a really lonely time in my life, came out of a very emotionally needy time of my life. And people said, hey, this Jesus will meet your needs. Well, okay, great. Where is he? How do I talk to him? How do I relate to him? So you've got this internal stuff in your heart, your mind, whatever. So we reach for the Bible, I think, because it gives us something tangible that we can work with and go to. And I would just do stuff because I was at that place where I was thankful and I was grateful and I was, all those things. And I wanted my life to have purpose and meaning. That's the bottom line. For me, it wasn't so much, oh, Jesus is telling me to do these things, as much as my life can have meaning and purpose now. And that meaning and purpose is powerful and important to me. So I'm doing these things, but then it became a job. Then you become a pastor, you become a minister. Or maybe it's just that the years wear on. I don't know what other people's experiences are. I'd love to hear it. But then it becomes a job. And I had to ask myself, am I doing these nice things from this place that I'm being led by the Spirit? Or am I doing this because this is the expectation that's on me in this pastor ego thing that I've created for myself and that I'm stuck in? And and so yes, the psychological damage, because what I ended up doing, and I think you would resonate with this as well, is that there are times, I mean, come on, I'm talking to the audience, not just you, Vanessa, but can we be honest? There are times that our hearts, what's in our heart, what's genuinely coming from within us, is in conflict with what we think the teachings of Jesus are, or what we believe Jesus would have us to do in that situation. And so then we have to make a choice. Do I remain true to myself and my authenticity, or do I remain true and faithful to the Lord and his teachings? And so often, because you're going to betray one or the other.
See,
and so we end up betraying ourselves, and that in and of itself can create some psychological damage. So these are the more subtle layers, I think, and the more hidden areas of religious trauma that nobody is talking about.
Right. I don't hear that. And I think that's why we have to I'm so churchy, Lord help me. I'm trying to get set free, y'all. But I think we have to kind of raise that trumpet, and because maybe these are thoughts that people have not been able to articulate, or maybe these are thoughts that people just haven't been able to process through, or maybe these are not thoughts that people have been aware of. But and for me, my life at the age of 51, it's about, I have to literally not only deconstruct from my religious views, I have to try to rebuild now, because deconstructing is, it's not just deconstructing, because if you just deconstruct, you're going to have a lot of problems there. But the putting the pieces of your life back together again is just as difficult, if not more difficult, because now for me, the next phase of that was, okay, how much of the Bible, because again, I was a Bible literalist. Is that right? So I know we're all in this spiritual awakening, and we're starting to kind of see that maybe we can use the Bible as a metaphysical book, or some type of psychological book. But come on, y'all. when we were in church, nobody won't talk about metaphysics, not in the church I was at anyway. I was a Bible literalist, honey. If the Bible said it, that settled it for Vanessa.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, part of this reconstruction process has been, okay, excuse my French, y'all, but what the hell do I do now? Like, who do I believe in?
Mm-hmm.
Can we have real talk?
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that you had to kind of help me with, because I was struggling a few months ago. Like, what do I believe in? What is God? Who is God? So there were so many layers to this,
right.
And I'm still reinventing. But I think that's, for me, that's where the whole spirituality has helped me so much. And what you helped me label as forbidden spirituality, those things have helped me, because for Vanessa, a girl like myself and like you, who gave our lives to loving on God,
mm-hmm.
when I decided to walk away from not just my ministry in that sense of the word, but I walked away from a lot of my core religious values, I needed to replace it with something.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't want to turn buck wild.
Right.
Okay. I didn't want to like go back to the world and be crazy.
Right.
I mean, I'm not judging anybody that chooses that path. It just wasn't what I wanted to do. I knew that I was a teacher. I knew that I was a leader. I knew that I was a healer. I knew that there was still a call on my life. Okay. So trying to figure out what that looked like, mm-hmm. and how to develop those gifts, and that was so difficult. Yep. So for me, the things that the church would condemn, mm-hmm. those are the things that saved my life. Meditation. And I'm not talking about, okay, I'm going to meditate on the word day and night. No, I'm talking about meditation. I
forgot that was a thing. How could I forget that? Because I practiced that. I did that. There was a season of my life I did that 8 hours a day, praying in tongues and meditating and reading scriptures.
Yes.
The ministers devoted themselves to the word of God and to prayer. And
Acts 6. That was Vanessa. That was Vanessa.
That was Aaron for sure. I
would lay on that floor, and I would lay on my floor at my house, and I would speak in tongues and read the Bible and meditate for hours and hours and hours at a time.
Yep.
I mean, so that's what I'm saying to people. Like, and so when people say to us now, like, why you got to keep talking about religious trauma? Well, and I've told people who are close to me, even family, like, for you guys, a lot of people, all you guys had was like this church thing. Like, you go to church on Sunday. It's like your social activity that you do on Sunday. So maybe it's not as distressing for you, but for somebody like me,
yep, come on.
It wasn't just going to church on Sundays for a social gathering. No, this was my life. My husband and I went on probably 2 vacations in our whole 14, 15-year marriage. I remember one night he and we were going to try to go out on a date. Oh my God. We were on the interstate, and one of our church members called. This is a true story. Their daughter was at the emergency room. She was really sick. I looked at my husband. He looked at me. What did we do? What did we do, y'all? We got off the exit, and we spent the night at the hospital with our little sick church member. I got in the hospital bed with her and prayed in tongues for hours so that God would heal this baby. So this is the kind of stuff that I did. And I'm not one of these pastors who, well, I wasn't perfect. I was a pretty damn good pastor. I'm just going to pat myself on the back.
Yeah, you were.
Right?
You were.
I was a good pastor.
You're making me look bad. You're making me look bad. Oh, my
no, I did. This is the stuff this is the stuff I did. Like, I went to the grocery store and shopped myself and fed families at our church. I let people live in our church who didn't have a place to stay. We had people living in our damn house upstairs, right? A man lived here who was homeless from our church. We were terrified. He could have raped me, killed me, but that's the stuff we did, because that's what Jesus said to do. So for somebody to now say to me, Vanessa, can you just get over it? Mm-hmm. Stop talking about it. Right. No.
Right.
Because that was my life.
Right.
And I have to even call some stuff out, because I want other people to not, if I can help somebody else, maybe other pastors and other leaders, to not make the mistakes that I made.
Right.
No, I'm not going to be quiet. Plus, this is therapeutic for me too.
Right.
So as I was saying, spirituality and spiritual practices, the things that the church have demonized and made everybody afraid of, if it had not been for a lot of those practices, I probably would have resorted back to drugs.
Sure.
I probably would have been an alcoholic again, because I was an alcoholic, seriously. I probably would have, left my husband and just gone crazy, because it was all I had was church.
Right.
My mother went to the grave in that same way. She devoted her life to church.
Right.
God rest her soul. Yeah. And I followed in her footsteps, but I took it to a whole nother level because I went into ministry, and so it's not as easy as just saying, Vanessa, be quiet and get over it, move on with your life. It doesn't, that's not what God has called me to do. I have to go back, and I have to speak out. I have to help. You have to help. That's why your group is it grew so fast. Why do you think it grew so fast?
Right.
Because there is a need. There is this huge need, and nobody wants to talk about the trauma that religion, quote unquote, or church causes us.
Here's why I think this is so important, because for like I was always a grace preacher. You can ask anybody. And there's several people that still follow and comment on the videos and stuff that have been with me and know me since day one. I'm still friends with people that I was friends with that knew me before I got saved, that I've done life with. You know what I mean? And so I was always a grace preacher. I was never the condemning guy. I frequently got comments when people would get around me, how uncorporate like of a pastor that I was down to earth, that I was real. And constantly, I think, like, we even did some surveys. What are things that you like about our church? Because those church growth things that you do. And the one consistently every year, what would come back is a non-judgmental environment. And so we created this environment. But Vanessa, here's the thing. I still found myself so traumatized myself as a grace preacher, that when I could let it go, I got rid of an anxiety disorder and began to lose second guessing and self-doubt. I could finally relax into who I was and who God made me to be, because and I say this, so I think it's important to talk about this, because, and here's the crux of the issue for me, and why I think it's so important that we talk about this, because here's where I think there's still a stronghold and a lie that people believe. And I think it's a lie. You can challenge me. But Christianity is not about religion. It's about relationship. So when you and I use the term religion, we are using it, I think, in an all-encompassing fashion to talk about our entire experience within the interaction of the Christian faith, all of it, the psychological part of it, the relationship part of it. That's what we mean. But there are so many people that hear the word religion and they want to contrast it with relationship, and they offer this sort of good news that, hey, you don't have to be religious, meaning, you can cuss, you can, we used to say, don't drink, cuss, smoke, and chew, or run with those that do, but you can do all that stuff, and Jesus still going to love you, and Jesus still going to have a relationship with you. So you don't have to follow the rules. It's just about relationship. And what you and I are trying to get across is, it was the relationship that was toxic. It is the relationship that was the problem. And and that's something, that's probably not true for everybody, and not everybody's ready to hear this, and not everybody's ready to wake up to this. But I know for you, and I know for me, I know for other people, I won't say their names because I don't, they're not on here, I don't have permission. But other people that I've talked to, particularly ministers, they will tell you the exact same thing. It's the relationship.
It's the relationship. Yep.
And
it is. And that's what drained me. And that's what gave me burnout and mental exhaustion, and that's the point I was trying to make at the top of the broadcast. Yes, I was doing all these wonderful, beautiful things, and my sister is on here, my blood sister, I was her pastor. And she said I was a great pastor. That's because you love me, sissy. But
I see how you do it now. You get your relatives, maybe a few people
yeah,
that
you
you pay.
get your
Let
yes.
me tell you a story. I went out the country, but one of these developing
Okay.
nations that people would travel to, and we were part of a network where these guys would go, and they had connected with these guys that had ministries over there, and they would have crusades, and they would come back to the United States, and they would show footage of these big crusades, and and these people getting healed and whatever. And what these guys knew, was they could milk a bunch of money out of American pastors or white pastors for feeling guilty, right? Whatever, because
Mm-hmm.
you're a prosperous American and we're not. And
Right.
so what they would do is that, these guys would bring 2, 3, 10, 15, 20, $25,000 offerings. And the average wage maybe in some of these places is 50 cents a day. And so they would gather a crowd, pay them all, 50 cents, whatever, have a few of them act like they were on crutches, have a few testify that they got healed. The whole thing was a sham. And people weren't even ever able to figure it out.
To discern it. To
Yeah.
discern it. Yeah.
I don't know how
Yeah.
I got off on
Yeah.
that crazy thing, but
Yeah,
or why.
because you're storytelling. These are the things that you experienced,
Yeah.
and I think it was me doing all of those things. It was because of my relationship with God that made me feel I had to do all these things. But then I would go home, Aaron, after being this great pastor. So I was a fairly good preacher. I was a fairly good pastor, right? And I was a fairly good confidant to tons of other leaders.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
So, I was what they called an apostle. And so at that time, of course, when you're an apostle, then you have other pastors that you supposedly cover and all that crap. So
Right.
I'm doing all this stuff. I'm preaching all over the country, right? And I would get home though, and I would look around my space and I would be like, but what about me?
Right.
Like, and I would say to God, like, at what point do I get a break though? Because my church family, which I loved at that time, but and not only them, just everybody who was in the Christian arena, like, could go do whatever they wanted to do. They could go, if they wanted to miss church, they could miss church. If they wanted to call out, they could call out. If they wanted to change churches and church hop, whatever. And I just felt like my life was just on hold.
Mm-hmm.
And this is something I'm struggling with because there is a scripture that talks about, Jesus said, and remember, I'm a Bible literalist. And so Jesus said, if you're not willing to love me more than your family, and he lists out the you're not worthy. You're not worthy you're not fit. I remember reading that and I'm like, oh my God. And so I literally cut off my family.
Yep.
To build ministry. So I was, even today with some of my family, we're still estranged. It's awkward. There's been so much damage done. I don't even think I can repair it now. And so it's these kinds of things that become traumatic that
Right.
I need people to hear us. I'm not bitter. I'm not fussing, but I'm telling people there are some of us who took the Bible, who took our Christianity so literally and so seriously that it's caused so much damage in so many different, and my children, just trying to go back and the things I taught them and the things I stripped from them, the things they couldn't enjoy because of my religious beliefs, these things cause trauma.
Right.
And some of this trauma is irreparable. All you can do is try to find a way to move beyond it. So I think we have to have these conversations because I need people to ask themselves this question, like, what kind of God? And I know I'm in trouble, but what kind of God are you serving that expects, demands?
Right. Come on. And this is Jesus.
All of these. This is Jesus now, y'all. This is New Testament.
Grace of Jesus.
I ain't even messing with y'all's Old Testament God with the 613 commandments.
That's right.
Y'all be talking about 10 commandments, but this is 600 and some odd commandments. So we'll lay the Old Testament to rest,
Yeah.
okay? But what about our Savior, who still see this? Here's the psychological warfare, because one part of Christianity says Jesus died for us and it's finished, right? Here, behold the Lamb of God who takes away the sin of the world. That's what your Bible says. For some, I don't know how we injected this other part, but if we say this sinner's prayer and accept him into our heart, we're supposed to be saved. But it doesn't stop there, Aaron. It doesn't stop at just getting saved.
Mhm.
Not for people like me who took the Bible seriously. Now, for the people who just was playing church, but I wasn't playing church. I meant it.
Right.
So it doesn't stop at the cross. And I know I'm making some people mad.
Well,
You'll be
but
okay. It doesn't stop at the
right.
cross. There's still all these other
Right.
expectations that Jesus puts on us. But yet and still the Christian church, we keep portraying Jesus as this loving, sweet.
Yeah, I really want to come back to that in a minute, but I want to ask you this question first,
Okay,
and then I really want
okay.
to come back to that issue, because I think it's a big issue. Because,
Okay.
and again, I'm coming from my grace training and grace background. I can hear the thoughts in my own head and probably out there in the atmosphere. Yes, but honey, you did all that and you just didn't understand the finished work of Jesus. You just didn't understand. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's the mentality. And I want to come back to that. But before we get to that, did you find, because I know I found this for myself, particularly if you had family members and stuff involved in church with you, that your relationships were church, your relationships were other ministers, you could never just hang and just chill and really connect with people on just a
Nope.
basic human level. And I'm not talking about just relaxing or going to the beach. I mean, I did a ton of that kind of stuff with other pastors.
Yeah.
But you got to always have your armor on. You got to always have your guard up. And people always have you in that role of the spiritual leader, the pastor, the woman of God, the man of God. And you cannot ever take that off so that you can just relax and connect with people. And I'm going to tell you, God damn it, that is traumatic. And that
Can
right
you open
there,
the altar for prayer, please?
that
I
right
need
there,
prayer.
I'm going to tell you, that's part of what I lost. That's part of what I gave up in my life, was just something simple. So people out there that maybe don't get it, because you never had to experience yourself living in that. But you don't have to be a minister to do that, because so many of you following Jesus, following the book, even those of you that believe grace and Jesus finished it all and whatever, you still can't connect with people at an authentic, genuine, organic level, because there's always the agenda. God loves the sinner but hates the sin. There's always the agenda of, you know what I mean?
Yep.
Like I found my niece was my I got my whole family involved with ministry. My niece got married several years ago now. But my niece married a woman, and I will never forget when I could let go of the judgment. Now, we were a loving family. They would come. We accepted her partner, that kind of stuff. But we didn't go to the wedding. We didn't get invited to the wedding. I wouldn't have supported the wedding. I wouldn't have performed the wedding.
Yeah.
And I will never forget the pain when I finally had the conversation with her and said, look, I realized that I was judgmental. And I just went to her on a personal level and said, I want to talk about this. Let's have this conversation. And I remember the tears that she said. And she's like, you don't understand. It was my wedding day and my family wasn't there. And I'm going to tell you right now, there's 95% of the charismatic world is in that same kind of judgmental bubble, and that prevents them from having an expanded view of humanity. It's prideful. It is not humble. It is exclusive. It is not helpful, and it disconnects you, and it causes pain, and it causes injury, while we stand and preach this Jesus finished it all,
gospel,
and amazing grace, how sweet the sound, and all this unconditional love stuff. And so these are the real issues that happen in people's life because of the stuff that's going on. Now, coming back to Jesus, but did you found that to be true too for you?
I feel that, yes. And so here I am today. And one of the most painful things that I've had to realize is that all of these people have left. 90% of the people have left my life, And I have to wake up every day and deal with the fact that I was in artificial relationships.
Yes, that's exactly
They were not genuine, authentic
right.
relationships. They were based on the fact that I was this so-called powerful apostle, leader, spiritual mother, pastor, role model, confidant. But it was all based on, it all was hinged upon theology or doctrine or beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and I remember throughout the course of the years of being in Christianity, like I never had a genuine friendship. I had people who said they were my friends, but I was always guarded. Nobody ever knew what I was really thinking except for my sister.
Mm-hmm.
She's the only person outside of my husband who knows what I'm really thinking. She's the only person that I can tell what I'm thinking at any time. She's with me even through this process. She's still walking with me. But can y'all imagine how psychologically damaging that is? And if you've never been in that position before, you can't resonate with that. But that's the life that Aaron and I've had to live. I lived that life. Like, I wanted to just know what it
Right.
felt like to sit at the table and just say whatever the hell I wanted to say.
Right.
Without somebody judging the fact that I just said whatever the hell I want to say.
I gotta stop you there, because I think I see in the comments. Every once in a while, I'll catch some comments. I think somebody got offended that I said "God damn it." Oh shit! I just said it again. God damn it!
You said it again. Did somebody get offended? I can't find it.
I could be wrong, but. But that's exactly what we're talking about. That's exactly what we're talking about. So even if I read the comment wrong, it's a perfect illustration of how you have to be this phony, artificial human being with artificial emotions. You can't get mad. You can't swear. You can't joke. Heaven forbid you tell a dirty joke. And
heaven forbid you do anything that qualifies you as being a human being.
Exactly.
I couldn't do anything. And being a woman in ministry, to me, the pressure is even greater because you're judged for how you look.
Yep.
You're judged for how you dress.
Yep.
I can't tell you how many times I was labeled as a Jezebel, or you're trying to seduce somebody.
You're judged by how your kids behave in church.
Yes. Yeah, and so you wonder why pastors were committing suicide, and you wonder why pastors were falling into sin, and you wonder why you hear all these things. Because, and I tell people even today, even though I'm not in the church, I still have a level of compassion and empathy for pastors and leaders, because I know what it's like. I know what it's like to be conflicted. I know what it's like to live, I don't want to say a double life, but I know what it's like to have to put on a persona.
It's not an organic life. It's not a spontaneous life. It's not a spontaneous life. You can't just spontaneously say, God damn it. And you can't in any environment and be okay without that judgment coming back at you. But a construction worker can.
Anybody can, except for a clergy. Anybody can.
Right.
And you have to always hear, I thought you were a woman of God, or I thought you were a man of God. I thought you were a leader. Though that pressure is psychologically damaging. And
Absolutely,
that's the life that I have been living for the past 25 years of my life. And I'm in a space right now where I cannot tolerate that anymore. Yeah. And I won't.
Yeah.
Like I need to be free. And this is the first time in my life that I'm able to walk into freedom. And I'm still struggling some days, because I still feel that energy that still hovers. But this is what we're talking about when we talk about religious trauma. It's not just doctrine. It's every aspect of your life, of your being, that you have completely become somebody that you don't recognize anymore.
Yeah.
I tell people all the time, I'm just hearing my name, Vanessa. When you say Vanessa, that just makes me feel so good, because nobody knew Vanessa.
Right.
I was Apostle Brooks, Lady Apostle. So then that becomes your identity. That energy just absorbs you, and you have to become that all the time. There's an expectation that you're that person all the time. There is no respect for your personal well-being. There's no respect for your privacy. And then these people who, when you are the leader, and I don't know about you, but especially for me, and I don't know if it's something that happens in the Black church. I don't know if it's just something that happens with female leaders because we're so emotional, but I overextended a lot. And so people would get so much from me. I gave so much of myself. And then these people could just abruptly just disappear and walk away. And so now you've got all of these open-ended relationships. They didn't close, they didn't end properly, they didn't terminate properly. When I was in grad school, one of the things my professor would drill in us is, knowing how to terminate relationships. And I sat there and I thought about all of the relationships that didn't terminate properly with me in church. That's trauma, y'all. You have all these people that you love, that you pray for, that you care about, that you genuinely care about. And for whatever reason, they've decided that their time with you is up. I'm over you. I'm out of here.
Yeah.
And you're left like, what happened? Where are they? What did I do? What's wrong with me? That's the stuff that I came home with week after week after week after week. And it almost destroyed me.
Yeah.
You talk about a person who goes into ministry, which most pastors go into ministry unprepared, untrained, right? We may have some theological training, but we're not trained at a mental level, at an emotional level, at a professional level. So you bring all of your stuff, your rejection, your low self-esteem, your attachment issues. You bring all of that into ministry, and you couple that with just the environment and the atmosphere of church and leadership. You got a train wreck waiting to happen.
Yeah.
And that's what happened to me.
Yeah.
So to expect me to just be quiet and say, okay, I won't talk about this anymore because I don't want to bring your vibration down. And I don't want you to think that I'm bitter and angry.
Because I exist
depressed.
for you.
Right. No, I'm not doing that because I lived that life, and I'm not living that life anymore.
Right.
And I'm in a season where this is my intention that I set out. You're going to have to like me for me this time.
Yeah, me too. Absolutely.
I don't have
100%.
nothing to give you. I'm not praying for you. I'm not prophesying to you. You're not going to like me because I can do something for you. You're going to have to learn how to like Vanessa, the person. And if you choose not to like me, the person, that's fine. But you're not going to like me because I'm anointed. Because I left that world. I had people loving me because I was anointed. And when that anointing left, people left with it.
Yeah. So one thing I want to hit, maybe last thing, and we should do this more consistently, Vanessa, because we have such good discussions, but we leave so much out on the table.
Know.
That we can come back.
We didn't even talk about half the stuff we're supposed to talk about tonight, Aaron.
Well, I do want to, I know, but hopefully this is good. I think this one's probably geared, and this is where I'm being quote unquote religious, because what we wanted to get to was, like, I still have a relationship with spirit. I still get words of knowledge. I still,
come on,
prophesy, all that stuff.
Come on.
But we put the Christian trappings on it, right? But I believe with all my heart that we're having this discussion, because this was not at all how we plan on this going, that there are pastors and there are leaders and there are other people. Maybe you're not a pastor, but you're a leader in the church, or you're a leader in your family or something, but what we're telling you is the truth. You're burnout. Maybe you're a pastor and you're burnout, or you're just a Christian person who's tired of being phony, and you didn't even know it was being phony. You just knew something didn't feel right on the inside. But as we were talking, you were able to resonate with the fact that, I can't just let down and be myself. I lost my spontaneity. Yes, I'm constantly second guessing myself. I'm constantly second guessing social interactions. I don't have the freedom to be myself because I'm so worried about getting people's judgments or displeasures or whatever. And I've shoved myself into this little pastor ego or Christian ego or whatever it is that you've done. And so I think what we're doing, Vanessa, is we're opening up understanding for people to understand, look, some of this, it's classifiable. We're both counselors, professional counselors. We have training in diagnostics, and I work in a clinic, so I diagnose and treat every single day. And I'm going to tell you right now, some of the characteristics that I just laid out is clear on mental illness, diagnosable mental illness.
Woo!
And
Yes.
your problem isn't your brain, and your problem isn't what your mommy and daddy did. This is what I had to find out. It wasn't what my mommy and daddy did to me when I was 5 years old, or the bullies on the playground, or whatever else I thought it was, or that the church tried to tell me it was. And it isn't the devil, and it isn't the fact that you messed
Come
with tarot
on.
cards, or you went to an energy reader, or you read your damn horoscope today, or whatever. And it isn't the devil attacking you because you're super Christian,
Come on.
because you're such a threat to the devil and his kingdom that he's got to just constantly barrage you, and take you down, because you're winning so many people to Jesus, and your light is shining so brightly. I mean, whatever. You got to realize that what's fucking you up is the religious shit that has been peddled and that you bought into, like we have, and believed. And the only way out of that mental
Yep.
illness, and the only way out of that anxiety, is to undo and untwist what got twisted in your mind and heart to begin with, by really well-meaning people like myself and
Well-meaning,
Vanessa.
yeah. Yes.
You
Because
know?
I accept my responsibility for whatever role I play. That was so powerful. And you just don't stop right there. You can't just stop right there. God, that was good.
Well,
Because most of the people that are watching this now, or that are watching the replay, they would never see this as a mental issue, because we've been given, as you said, we've been given all these other reasons for what's wrong with us. And I've spent my entire life thinking all these other things was wrong with me, when
right.
at the end of the day, what was really wrong with me was the toxic, twisted, distorted, confusing religious beliefs that I developed. I gotta say this before we end, because I don't want anybody to think that and you hit this, but let me just say this before we go. This is what healed my heart, was that, and I'm not asking anybody else to take this journey. This is my journey. This is my experience. You create your own. For me, because a lot of people have accused me of being an atheist, and you've left God. Well, I've left the God that was very destructive for my mental health. The beautiful thing that I discovered is that there is a divine spirit of love and frequency, and I don't know what to call it. Okay. And I'm not going to be forced to say God, because that makes somebody feel comfortable. I say God because it's habit. It's habit forming. But what I've experienced, there is no name for it. It is nameless, but it is powerful, and it is healing. And that force, that energy, that divine source, it loves me just the way I am. And it
Oh,
doesn't demand that I do anything.
man.
It doesn't demand that I say a prayer. It doesn't demand that I put my life on hold. It doesn't demand that I lay my life down for the sheep. It doesn't demand that I be perfect. It allows me to be a human, to experience life here in this earth as a human. And when I mess up, all right, there is no penalty. There is a lesson to learn from it. So did I leave the God that I was connected to for 25 years, that dark, angry, divisive energy from the Old Testament, and even some of it from the New Testament? Yes. Yes. But I want somebody to hear me today. That is not the only God. And for some people, I think they struggle because they feel like, if I let that go,
Right.
I have nothing. But I'm
Right.
telling you, these deities, these gods in the Bible, these are, in my opinion, these are men's experiences of their gods. You need to find your own experience, just like Paul and Moses and David, no women, by the way, were able to share about their experiences with their time with God. You can do that too. And that has been the most healing thing for me, was that I did not have to try to mimic any longer, or
Right.
recreate or duplicate or replicate the biblical experiences, that I could have my own. And so I don't want anybody to say that I'm telling you that I've left God, or that I'm an atheist, or that I'm
Right.
whatever. I just, for the first time in my life, I'm able to develop that closeness with the Spirit, without the Bible telling me how it's supposed to look, or what I'm supposed to say, or how I'm supposed to pray. This is an experience that I wouldn't trade for anything in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And so I want to just put that out there, because I want people to think about trusting themselves. God have mercy. Trusting themselves long enough to hear for themselves who and what God is. Trusting themselves long enough that even if you have to do what I did and for a whole year close the Bible, because I closed it. This is my experience. I had to close it, because you can't get healed if you're going to keep connecting to the same energy. You can't get healed if you're going to keep allowing your mind to connect to the same limiting beliefs that have caused the dysfunction and disorder in the first place. So I had to close it. I had to close my church. I had to close my Bible. I had to leave the pulpit. I had to walk away. I had to shut down the voices that were calling me everything but a child of God.
Yeah.
And I had to sit still. I had to sit still. And I had to hear God for myself. And I had to develop God from a place within. And I had never done that before. And so I'm saying to people, if you do that, if you are a person who is experiencing confusion, and I get messages all day long from people all around the world. I have a group too, and it's just filled with people who are like, thank you for being bold enough, brave enough, courageous enough to say what most leaders won't say. Most leaders know that their beliefs are confusing and toxic and dysfunctional. But the severity of the mental damage is so deep that it's hard for people, it's hard for leaders, it's hard for Christians to confront it, okay? It's hard to confront dysfunction, and it's hard to confront disorder. It's hard to confront your abuser. I used to work with domestic violence, and I know how hard it was for those women, most of the time it was women, to confront their abuser. We'd set up these court dates, we'd get to the court, and she changed her mind. She couldn't face her perpetrator. She couldn't face her oppressor. So I know it's hard to go back and have to face the oppression of religion.
Right.
But it's the day that you do that, that's the day that you can start the healing process.
And I want to emphasize something you said, and then I suppose we should wind it down and
get out of here.
Schedule for next week so we can talk about what we were supposed to talk about. But I do want to say this, like, you do not have to give up God or your relationship with God or your relationship with the Spirit, or even necessarily. Now I did. I had to close my Bible, and I had to get away from church. So I affirm everything you said, Vanessa, right there. But like, I have had the most amazing encounters really since last July, at least once a week, where I'm having just this incredible intimate encounter with the Spirit. And I feel more loved by God now than I ever did at any other time in my life. And and to feel the presence, and to know that the anointing of the Holy Spirit has not left me. And yet I've left Jesus.
Oh,
and
you
yet
in trouble.
You know, I've studied tarot cards, and yet I've, done all these different things. And I
and God is still with you.
And God is still with me.
But Jesus told us to leave. I'm not going to get on that tonight. I'm telling y'all, you better read that Bible.
I know. I kind of jumped the gun there. So that'll be next. But
He told us he was going to leave.
Yeah.
He told us to let him go away.
Let me address one thing about swearing or cussing, because I'm amazed how much of a trigger. I guess I shouldn't be, because I remember being in that bondage myself. But I'm amazed how much of a trigger that is for people. Like they could tolerate somebody dying in the streets easier than somebody in a Christian setting, or using the name of Jesus and then using a cuss word or a swear word right after that.
It's programming.
That is
just programming.
Deeply embedded mental programming.
It's programming.
And that's
they see it. It's blasphemy. Like we were taught that it was blasphemy.
Yeah, I know. But it's
just somebody's on here now talking about practicing witchcraft and denying the sun. Okay. All right.
Oh, because I said I'm into tarot and I left Jesus.
I'm
giving them exactly what they want. And what I did for a long time was, I was so afraid of being able to give people that were that religiously programmed, that were, because the reason you come on a feed and feel like you need to do that is because you are not sure of what you believe. And the fact that we're talking about this stuff so confidently, we're not in a corner someplace. I'm telling you, I'm not demonized. I'm telling you that I'm more of a sound-minded person than I've ever been since I did this stuff. So all that stuff about you're going to get demons is total bullshit. Now you're saying, see, well, you're cussing. But see, you're getting triggered because you know your foundation is really a slippery slope.
It's weak.
And that's what they tell us. Oh, don't question. Oh, don't question. Don't go down that road.
Question.
That's a slippery slope. Well, maybe, like my friend Daryl Carlson says, if it's such a slippery slope, then maybe we need to slide down that slope so we can actually get on a firm foundation. Because how can we out of one side of our mouth say you're building on a good foundation, firm foundation, Jesus is the rock, you know, the stuff. I can't even remember. I've so deprogrammed my mind from that religious crap. But we say that, but then, oh my God, you just question something and suddenly it's a slippery slope. And so I just want to say, I use that language on purpose. Number one, I'm free to do it. But number two, I use it on purpose because I know that it creates a reaction. And when you feel that reaction inside you, what's actually happening, what neuroscience says is actually happening, is it is creating cognitive space inside of you for you to actually change.
Yep. You're right, to create a new neural pathway.
Absolutely. And to recognize how hardwired that judgment is in your mind and body. It disrupts that programming so much, it creates this cognitive space that a seed can then go in. And I'm telling you, Jesus did. If we want to use Jesus as our model, if you read the Gospels, he did exactly the same thing. Why would he heal on the Sabbath? He made a point in several of the Gospels of healing on the Sabbath. Why? He could have healed them on Monday. He could have said, you know what, we're not having any more healing services on Saturday. We're going to have them on Sunday because the Sabbath was on a Saturday. He deliberately, in that environment, Vanessa, would heal the sick. He was deliberately triggering that programming.
I was going to say to trigger.
On purpose.
Subconscious programming. On deliberately.
Yeah.
And this is my last comment. I'm always amazed when Christians, and now that I'm outside of it and I look back in, I'm like, wow, it's so amazing when Christians accuse non-Christians or whoever of witchcraft, not realizing.
Right.
To me, that statement is a classic example of what I call Christian witchcraft. You deny the Son, you're practicing witchcraft. That's witchcraft right there. Because it's about control and it's about fear.
Right, we gotta control we gotta shut you up.
Yes,
we gotta
that's witchcraft. I'm gonna release these words to put fear in you. Somebody did that on my live stream yesterday.
It's
she was like,
magic is what it is. It's very
black magic.
Level, very low level. You don't know what the hell you're doing. Yeah, you're still messing with black magic.
It ain't no power behind it. But I'm always amazed when people do that. But it's a classic example of magic and witchcraft. I'm using words to put fear and control in you, to intimidate you, to manipulate you, to get what I want.
Right.
I want to get you to change your mind, Aaron Tomlinson. I want you to stop using those words. So I'm going to say this to put fear. That's witchcraft right there, man. Hey, listen. Whatever.
I want to control I want to control your thinking. I want to control what you say, and I'm going to scare you by telling you that God's going to damn you to hell. God's going to damn you to hell without redemption. So I'm going to put that fear in there as the emotional part to try to create an alchemy in you to get you to change what you're doing. So anyway, Vanessa.
But I thought it was finished, though. I thought it was finished. See?
You got something else?
I thought it was finished on the cross. So okay. I'm done.
Well, what kills me is the universalist. How can you be a universalist and give a damn what anybody does?
It doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't.
How can you believe in grace and how can you believe in grace and talk about witchcraft in the same breath? It doesn't make any sense to me. But anyway, I digress.
Right. I know. Hey, I love you. You're my friend.
I love you too.
Let's do this again, maybe next Tuesday if you're free.
Yes, let's do it next Tuesday.
And let's get on.
We'll get on topic next Tuesday.
Get on topic next Tuesday. Yeah, and we won't upset people.
Aaron, I'm gonna write a. You're upset about what?
We won't upset people.
They're gonna still get upset.
Yeah, no. What were you gonna say?
Yeah, but that's no fun if we don't upset people.
I tell people I put explosive stuff on Facebook. That's actually my therapy. I don't get paid for it. I don't get paid for any of this. It's just therapeutic for me. So y'all getting triggered out there, it just makes me feel a lot better. What were you going to say, Vanessa?
No, I'm done. I
All
just
right.
said next week we'll need to write an outline out so we can stay on task.
Yeah, that's a good idea. We'd have like an agenda, like you have when you get in a meeting. I think it was
Yeah,
good tonight. I think it went the direction it needed to.
I think it was great too. We have a lot of viewers and a lot of commentary and comments. I can't wait to see what everybody's
I
saying.
know,
I
me
think
either.
Jared
Let's.
is who is. I think we've made Jared a little upset tonight. Jared
Well,
D'Amato.
well, Jared, God bless you.
I
Um,
know. You just need a big hug, Jared.
that's right,
A
man.
big cyber hug. Just need some love. Or maybe a tarot reading. I don't know.
We can laugh at this
Okay, I'm
because,
done.
but you know what? We can laugh at this because we know, like we know, we have studied this. We know what you think, Jared. We know what you think about tarot, and because we were there too. And I'm being presumptuous, and
Yes.
I'm
Yeah,
picking on
I
you.
was
I'm picking on you.
there.
But
I was
it's
there.
not what you think. Its origins aren't what you think. Its practice isn't what you think. Its message isn't what you think. And its effect on people spiritually, mentally, and emotionally is not what you think. And we have experience with it. We've studied. We've been on both sides. So I'm just
It's
going to say that.
actually very biblical.
It is.
People would be
It came
surprised
out
to
of
know how biblical it's
it.
part.
It came out of Christian Europe. It came out of
It
Christian
did.
Europe.
I mean,
I mean, the
they
pictures, you know, the game. I understand the philosophies are rooted deeper in, you know, more ancient
right.
practices and can trace their origins back to Egypt. I get that, but the images and stuff themselves came out of Christian Europe and the same
Mm-hmm.
philosophers that were influencing the people who gave you your Bible
Would you please teach that
were the
part? Real,
same
just teach that part.
philosophers that were influencing the people that gave you the tarot deck. So
It's one and the same.
the
I'm
same
telling
group
you.
that sat there and said, "Oh, we don't want this gospel. We want this gospel. We don't want this book. We want this book." The same group. The same group. We're all influenced by Platonic
And I'm gonna tell you
philosophy
what
and Alexandrian,
the
and even Israel was influenced by Egypt. So there's Egyptian philosophy. We could go on and on.
the Bible is way more treacherous than the tarot deck is. But that's
Damn straight.
okay.
No,
I'm
you're absolutely
finished.
right. Yeah, yeah. There's
The,
no
the you
none of that
can't
other
compare the two.
toxic crap in there. But that's what kills me is
Yeah.
people don't know.
Okay.
They don't know. They don't know. And I guess that's why we're
Because
talking. We're just sharing information.
most Christians don't read the Bible though. Most
No,
Christians don't read the Bible. Most Christians just have a set of beliefs that they've been told to believe. Most Christians have no idea what's even in the Bible,
right.
other than the few highlight, the popular scriptures. They don't even know the depth of the Bible. But that's a whole other
Not even
conversation.
close. It
Talk
is.
to you
All
later.
right. Love you. Talk to you
Not
later.
even close.
Love
Love
everybody
you
for
too.
watching. Thank you. Even you, Jared. Love you.
Thank y'all for
Talk to you
joining.
later. Bye bye.